From the makers of vet-recommended Greenies dental treats comes an easy way to support your dog's wellness. Greenies Smart Essentials Dry Food delivers complete balanced nutrition with science-backed recipes. Greenies Supplements, developed by a team of PhD animal nutritionists, offers options to help support healthy joints, digestion, and more. Whether it's mealtime or mobility support, Greenies helps you care for your dog from the inside out. Learn more at greenies.com.
Welcome to Veterinary Vertex, the AVMA Journal's podcast, where we delve into behind-the-scenes look with manuscript authors. I'm Editor-in-Chief Lisa Fortier, joined by Associate Editor Sarah Wright. Today, we're exploring the really important topic of home-prepared diets. This is an important topic to both pet owners and veterinarians. We have our guests Janice O'Brien and Audrey Ruple. Thank you, ladies, for being here with us today and sharing the background on this manuscript.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So you're both repeat guests on our podcast. We're so excited to have you with us today. And before we dive in, could you share a little bit about your background and what brought you to the Dog Aging Project?
Sure, this is Audrey, and I'll start. I went to vet school at Colorado State University and then did a residency and a master's associated with that, but then kept on for a little bit more pain and did a PhD in epidemiology and ended up really focusing on small animal epi. And that's a pretty unique perspective to have as an epidemiologist in the veterinary field. Most veterinary epidemiologists have a large animal focus. And so it became a pretty natural fit for working on projects that look at longitudinal data in dogs, like the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study or the Dog Aging Projects. And then fortunately for me, I was able to convince Dr. Janice O'Brien to come back to school and do a PhD with me. Janice, why don't you talk about your background?
Yeah, that was, basically I was in practice. I had gotten out of the Army and I was in small animal practice in rural Virginia. And I was just kind of missing and having this feeling of wanting to do research. And I really wanted to do it specifically in epidemiology. And I remember looking for the epi programs that I knew had existed when I was in vet school and wasn't finding things on them. So I just reached out to Audrey, who had taught me epidemiology when I was in vet school. And she was like, hey, you're in Virginia. I'm in Virginia. You need to come do a PhD. And I was like, yep, that sounds like this needs to happen.
That's a great story. Your guys' AJVR article describes home-prepared diets for dogs enrolled in the Dog Aging Project cohort. We've seen a lot of studies, really fabulous, meaningful studies from this Dog Aging Project. What motivated you behind this specific area of looking at home-prepared diets?
Yeah, and so the impetus for this was the change in the diet survey. So originally, the Dog Aging Project diet survey collected really, really basic information about diet type. Like it was just a button of like, do you feed your dog kibble, canned food, freeze-dried food, or a home-prepared diet. And it was just a button. And then in response to feedback from participants, the diet survey changed in 2023 to allow much more detailed information to be collected about both commercial and home-prepared diets. But when I started looking into the home-prepared diet free text responses, where people are just telling us everything that they wanted to tell us about their home-prepared diets, it was really interesting. And I was like, there's a lot here. We should look into this.
Surveys are tough. Those free text areas need to be combed through pretty carefully to find out what your next goals are. Janice, did you have any assumptions going into this study that were challenged by the resultant data?
Yes, absolutely. So, and this is one of those reasons that I love epidemiology. My experience and my narrow worldview had taught me that basically home-prepared diets were all chicken and rice. And so turns out that is not at all true. This data set really showed me that all of the ingredients that can go into a diet are so varied. And then the average number of ingredients in each diet in this data set was 9 to 10 ingredients. So that's not 2. That was important to learn why epidemiology is so important and not just knowing your small breadth of experience.
Yeah, I was just at a association management leadership seminar last week, and I was the only veterinarian there. So of course, people were talking to me about their pets, and a lot of people were like, "What are your thoughts on like homemade versus commercial diets?" And I'm like, "Well, if you're going to do homemade, please work with a veterinary nutritionist to make sure it's complete and balanced." Like that's always my take-home message for people when they ask. So with that being said, Janice, what are your key take-home messages that you hope veterinarians and clients will remember from your work?
Well, yeah, that's definitely one of them. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do to help people to make a complete and balanced diet. Um, but that most of the diets that were in this data set were not likely meeting nutritional recommendations for maintenance. And that was interesting to me to show that in a different way than previous research has demonstrated that, because previous research just looked at the recipes that were available. And this was actually looking at the way that people are feeding their dogs. And so I think that's the first one. Then the second one is just that, yeah, the home prepared diets are really as different as they could possibly be.
Yeah, I'm sure glad no nutritionist looks at my diet to see if I'm meeting all the nutritional requirements. Janice, of all the projects within the dog aging project, what sparked your interest in nutrition?
I feel like it was literally just having been in practice. I felt like a lot of the questions that I wanted to answer in terms of my research were focused around nutrition. And so that's what really drove me to focus on nutrition, but in the epidemiology sense.
From that lens, could you approach nutrition? As you said, it's so highly varied. Uh, Give us some insight into how you think about researching this area of nutrition.
Yeah, so my PhD program, like both the classes, but then also just the experience of being able to conduct research, get feedback on it, has really taught me so much about all of the different ways that we can approach a question and try to answer it, and all of the, potential flaws, with survey data, and the study designs that you have to be considering when you're trying to work with the data.
What questions are still out there that really bother you and drive your current research or next research project?
So my big questions are all related to, how we feed our dogs for the period of time during their lives when they're basically young and healthy, and how that affects their life later on. Like we know so much about nutrition for disease processes, but as a preventive medicine person, I wanted to know how nutrition exposures can help keep pets healthy.
So Janice, looking ahead, what are the next steps for research in this area?
Well, so my big follow on research question is, now that we've demonstrated within this data set that these diets in general are not meeting nutritional recommendations, I want to know what sorts of effects long term feeding of these diets has. Because I know when I was in practice, I saw patients that were eating very clearly incomplete diets, but they seemed mostly fine when I was seeing them. And so I was always curious, how much of a fuss should I be making that as a practitioner? Um, and so, yeah, my research question is to basically answer that long-term feeding question, for dogs that are eating home prepared diets for maintenance. Are they more or less likely to develop any particular health conditions later in life?
And Audrey, are there any particular populations, species, or environments that you think deserve closer study?
I do. We're doing a really great job in terms of getting a really diverse population of dogs enrolled in our research programs, not just the Dog Aging Project, but at every individual vet teaching hospital across the US that's doing research. We do an exceptional job of getting a diverse population of dogs, but we don't do a very good job of getting a diverse population of human owners. And so it's hard for us to know how people's cultural or socioeconomic status really directs or interfaces with our dog's health outcomes. And so, especially when we're thinking in terms of nutrition, we know that nutrition for our animals would be impacted by things like an owner's income level or an education level. And so I think that for me, what's really interesting is thinking about over the rest of my career is trying to really broaden the scope of diversity in the human populations that we're enrolling in our dog related studies.
That's fascinating. And I forgot to say, go Rams. I'm CSU 91. Um, Janice, you've already alluded to mentorship and working with the fabulous Audrey. Uh, what other mentors or experiences shaped your perspective on research?
Well, another one of my PhD committee members is Dr. Katie Tolbert, and she is a board certified veterinary nutritionist, and she has been really a truly amazing mentor in this arena and really helping to shape my questions and how that fits into the nutrition clinical perspective. And then also, if you can consider them mentors, the participants in the dog aging project themselves, I think have really taught me a lot because they have really taught me about all the different ways that people are choosing to feed their pets that I would absolutely never have learned about if I wasn't working with this data set.
Yeah, Katie's amazing. I think people take it for granted how hard it is to write a good question, whether it's an exam or a survey or any other sort of research. And I remember taking 2 weeks on my, what was it, a T32 or an R01? I can't remember. My first training grant with my mentor, 2 weeks to write the hypothesis. I was out of my skin, but it was absolutely the right thing to do and transformative in how I looked at writing good questions after that. What would you say to how do you write a good question?
I feel like for epidemiology stuff, that is like always our first question. We're like, what is the question you're trying to ask right now? And what do you want to answer?
Yeah.
It's totally an epidemiology question.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just what is your question, right? Just start there. What is your question? You said that, looking at some of these animals clinically, how did that clinical work influence this direction of your research?
Yeah, I alluded that I feel like a lot of my clinical work really left me with the questions that I hope to answer in my research. And, some of those are, you know, I feel like some of them ended up being like, I don't want to say controversial. That's not the right term, but just like they're the edge of what we don't know and have not yet researched. And that's what I want to learn. And so, yeah, I'm trying to figure out how we can use large data sets like Dog Aging Project to answer all of those questions that I feel like a lot of people, not just me, have.
Now, Janice, this next set of questions is going to be very important for our listeners. And the first one is going to revolve around the veterinarian's perspective. So, Janice, what is one piece of information the veterinarian should know about home prepared diets for companion dogs?
So, my number one take home would be that these diets have lots of ingredients. And perhaps that's because it's the thing that surprised me the most. But the average number of ingredients in these diets was 9 to 10 ingredients. So if you're asking in a history and you're at like ingredient number 3, I would just keep asking one more time if that's really everything that you're putting in your dog's diet.
And for the public, what's one thing you wish more people understood about this issue?
Think the thing I wished so hard was I know that there are so many good tools out there that can help pet owners, veterinarians too, who are wanting to feed and formulate home prepared diets. And those tools can help them make one that meets nutritional recommendations. And that includes obviously consultation with a board certified veterinary nutritionist. But there's also great recipes that are written by board certified veterinary nutritionists. There are websites that help you formulate based on particular ingredients that you want to make maintenance diets. But just picking a random internet recipe is not one of those good tools.
Perfectly said. As we wind up, we like to ask a little bit more of a fun question. So, Audrey, you've been kind of quiet. We'll start with you. What's the oldest or the most interesting item either sitting on your desk or tucked away in a drawer? And if you have it, feel free to show it to us.
I'm not able to show it to you, but I actually have 2 magic 8 balls in my office because sometimes science is not enough, and we just need to go out and just ask for the answer from somewhere else.
Have you ever done a study to say, like, if I ask this 8 ball, what do you say? Do you go and ask the other one and do they agree?
I have a favorite magic 8 ball that seems to be more accurate than the other one. So I am going to try to test this in a really scientific perspective and see if I am accurate in that.
That's awesome. I don't have an 8 ball, but I do have an old lava lamp that my son gave me at least a decade ago. And I love to have that thing like bubbling around, just some old nostalgia.
It's exactly what it is. It's so nostalgic.
Janice, how about you?
So the thing that I like to keep on my desk is actually a challenge coin. So in the military, we have these things called challenge coins that people will get for particular events. But I am a member of the Millennium Cohort Study, and I keep the challenge coin that says that I'm a member of the Millennium Cohort Study, which is studying service members and their health over time. And it means a lot to me to be a member of a cohort and then to also be a researcher doing research on a cohort of dogs. And I'm a member of a human cohort myself.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's really cool. I've never heard that before. How about one more? Audrey, what do you think is the most beautiful animal and why?
The dog. I think because of their loyalty, their open-heartedness, and just their ability for an infinite capacity of joy.
All right. So that's an inside beauty. Janice, how about you?
Gotta love the dogs, and beautiful on the inside, but also there are some really, really gorgeous dog colors that just really can be striking.
Very good.
I agree. When you see like a really pretty golden retriever that's like just being groomed, their coat's all shiny, and you're like, that's a good looking golden. Well, Janice, Audrey, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here with us today.
Thanks so much for having us back. It's great to see you both.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, you can read their full article on AJVR. I'm Sarah Wright here with Lisa Fortier. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Veterinary Vertex. And don't forget to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.